everyone, and welcome to Roy's Tie-Dye Sci-Fi Corner, episode number 185, Outland, the classic 1981 film starring Sean Connery and Peter Boyle. With me tonight to discuss this classic is my friend, my co-host, the one and only, Mr. Ross Amico. Ross, welcome.
Thanks, Roy. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Ross, how are you doing tonight?
Doing well. Much better than last week.
That's good. Glad to hear it.
Yeah.
I'm
recovered.
You're recovered. Okay, you're 100%, and then 100%. Some.
And then some. I'm turned up to 11.
Uh-oh, look out, folks. Ross is revved and ready to go. He's fully charged. Oh, boy. It's going to be a fun one. Hey, I want to welcome our viewers that are out there. I see Colin Curlis is joining us. Colin is actually joining us from the UK. Welcome to the show, Colin. Great to see you out there. And Randy Lee is actually joining us. Randy, I don't know if you're still in New Zealand, but thanks for joining us no matter wherever you're at. And David Frontier is joining us. David, welcome. David, I always forget where you're located. So, and if you could just remind me, and I'll try to remember for next time. And Lou is joining us from Rhode Island. Welcome, Lou. And Sue is joining us from Massachusetts. Great to see you out there as well, Sue. And Liz is joining us. She's joining us from the UK. Welcome, Liz. And Randy's saying, I like how you moved the show back 5 minutes to ensure that you started on time. You know, that's a true story. And you know what the funny thing about that is? We were still, I think, 2 minutes over. But hey, it's been a busy week and, I'm juggling. So anyway, Mark is joining us and coworker from friend from work. Mark, welcome. And I see Bill Scarrato is in the house. Bill, my friend Bill is joining us, and he's joining us from Harmony, New Jersey, from Country Gate Theater. And David is saying New Hampshire. Okay, I've got it, David. I apologize for that. Hey, and Dave Rash is out there. Dave, welcome, Dave. Good to see you out there. Dave is actually joining us from East Stroudsburg, Pennsylvania. And Randy is saying, I am no longer in New Zealand. I've returned to the snow. Oh boy. Welcome back, Randy. And Brendan is also joining us. Brendan, welcome. Good to see you back out there.
He's shaken, not stirred.
And Linda is joining us. Linda, welcome. Linda's joining us actually from Canada.
Well, she wouldn't miss Connery. Yeah.
No. Well, yeah, we're not doing Zardoz.
Sorry.
Oh. And news flash from Lou. He's saying, I actually watched Outland this past week. Very cool.
Is that the first time you've seen it, Lou?
No, I think he's seen it before. It's just probably been a while.
Yeah.
Martin is joining us from New York State. Welcome, Martin. And I see Allie, my friend from work, is joining us. Allie, welcome. Good to see you out there, Allie. And you know what? I also saw that Heather was out there. Heather, there you are, Heather. My friend from work is joining us. Heather is joining us from Delaware. Welcome, Heather. Good to see you out there as well, too. So we are well represented. And Claudia snuck in here, and she's joining us from West Virginia. Claudia, good to see you out there, too. Welcome. So, yeah. Well, anyway, I hope everyone had a great week. It's kind of raining right now here in New Jersey, so fortunately it's not snow yet.
Okay.
Lou's commenting, I had the Blu-ray for years, watched it many times over the years. Yeah, I figured. I had a feeling. And Shari is joining us from downstairs. Hi, hon. So anyway. So Ross, as I always like to ask you, did you see this movie in the theater when it first came out?
I did. And our Canadian contingent would be happy to learn that I first saw it in Montreal. I saw it in Canada back in 81.
Wow.
Yeah. And they made a big deal out of it. I remember there were big, huge posters outside the theater. They were like canvas posters on the side of the building and everything. It was quite an opening. We just happened to be in Montreal that weekend, so I caught it there.
Okay. So was opening weekend that you were up there, or?
Yeah, it was opening night. I mean, I saw it on the night it opened, I think.
Okay.
On the Friday.
I was looking at the dates, and I guess it opened, at least in here in North America, it was May 22nd, 1981. So wow. Oh, Linda just commented, by the way. No way would I miss some Ross. Love this movie.
He was dressed like Zardoz underneath that uniform.
And Liz is commenting. It's very snowy in England. Oh wow.
We've got very little snow here, in central Jersey anyway.
Yeah.
I know they're supposed to get some in North Jersey. Are you expecting it where you are, Roy?
I think we potentially could get a couple of inches of snow overnight. It's kind of on the borderline. It's kind of on the cusp. Yeah. They're also talking about potentially snow on Monday, so we'll wait and see what happens with that.
Yeah.
Hopefully not.
We got nothing here all winter. We got a dusting the other day. That melted immediately.
Well, are you considered? Is Princeton considered South Jersey, or it's kind of
central?
Borderline? It is central.
I think we're Central Jersey. We're not South. It's like Camden and down to like Cape May and everything. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I would have thought.
Yeah.
Oh, Jeff Rubel's joining us. He's joining us from out west in Utah. Jeff, welcome. And Colin's saying, very rare we get any in Cornwall, but I'm right in the bottom far southwest tail bit. Yeah. No, honestly, in regards to weather, I mean, we have been extremely lucky. Now, I know it's March, but it's March 10th already, for crying out loud, which is crazy. So
tell me how lucky you are with when we have drought, because we have no snow.
Yeah, I know. That's the flip side of it, because
we're gonna get snow.
That's because you love the snow. you hate summer. You're not full me, Ross. I'm on to you.
Snow miser. Yeah.
Anyway, so we're gonna jump right into this movie.
I love cannibalism.
Oh, there you go. Well, Ross, you're always such a treat on a Friday night.
Yeah.
So there we go, folks. Outland.
There we go.
Yeah.
And that was now, that card, that poster, I don't remember that being the poster for the film. I wonder if that was like for a reissue or overseas, or if they had an alternate poster. Because all I ever remember is Connery there with the shotgun in his uniform. They may have had the outpost in the background, on the poster.
Yeah, I actually think this is a modified poster. I don't think it's the original theatrical release, but we aimed
to serve its purpose. Yeah.
It broadcasted the show. It advertised the show.
Yeah.
Yeah. In fact, Mark just commented. He said Outland was really a sci-fi remake of the Gary Cooper Western High Noon. It sure was, Mark. You're beating us to the.
Somebody had to say it.
Yeah, we know you were thinking it out there. So yeah, no, absolutely. And this was a film by Peter Hyams, and in fact, what's interesting too? It had only been, if you think about it, 10 years since he had portrayed 007, because this movie came out in 81 with Connery. Yeah,
I know, and it's being kids, fairly. It came out when we were like 14, 15.
Yeah,
I guess it was right before we turned 15, right? Because we were born in July.
Right.
So, I mean, I still count that as early enough that the years crawled, as opposed to now where you blink and they're past. And yeah, it seemed like forever since he was Bond, but it was only 10 years. Yeah. So it was, an obvious attempt to, the Western had kind of petered out at this point. It had been around for decades. Everybody went to see Westerns from the silent era. And we really got inundated in the 50s and 60s. And growing up in the 60s, 70s, Sunday afternoon, and Saturday afternoon was all Westerns all the time. Our grandparents would always be watching these things. But somehow it had run its course. By the 70s, we started getting these revisionist Westerns where you didn't have the clear definition of the white hat versus the black hat, and there was that sense of justice at the end, justice being served, and civilization triumphing, and sometimes the lone gunfighter or whatever would ride off into the sunset, and stake out, head for the frontier again, but we didn't get that a lot, in the late 70s. People were always just getting killed in the Westerns, or the heroes were anti-heroes. They were like the spaghetti Western kind of heroes.
Well, you know what? It goes back to what we've talked about on the show, and we talk about it a lot, but it really, really holds true. It's almost as if every decade has its theme or has its time, so to speak. And to your point, the spaghetti westerns were really prominent in the 60s, and they carried over into the 70s as well too.
Yeah, they kind of hit a decadent stretch by the time they got to the 70s, but yeah, they were around still.
But then they started really to dry up, and obviously in the 50s too. I mean, it was the Frontier and
John Wayne and
John Wayne, exactly. I mean, those movies are classics, and to your point, I remember going to my grandparents, and my grandpa would be watching, like on a Saturday, or mostly like we would go over there a lot on Sundays, and it was almost like a reoccurrence of these certain types of movies that you could always count on being on either like Channel 5 out of New York, WNEW TV, or Channel 11 WPIX. And it was almost like you had your Blu-ray that you were putting in there, or your DVD or your VHS at that point. And this is all before, that existed, because these movies would be recycled constantly, and that's how you would catch them. But they always seem to replay the same ones, and it was like clockwork.
Oh my God.
They were very, very common.
Even in the 80s, like whenever I put on the TV, whenever I was at the shore and put on the TV, they were showing Rio Bravo. It's like, Rio Bravo again? Yeah, but they were going, Westerns were going great guns. I mean, it's that the pun is not really intended, but they were going great guns through the 60s, and then suddenly they kind of hit a wall. Well, you started getting things like the Peckinpah film, The Wild Bunch. Where they emphasize the violence and the heightened realism, as opposed to the romantic ideal of the American West. And the spaghetti westerns, as I mentioned, they came up in the 60s too. And then they started making them parables about Vietnam or Watergate or what have you.
Well, that's sort of
a level of realism that started
to Western. That sort of approach into the 70s. But in regards to movies, like, and I see some of the comments that are coming through. Colin said The Virginian. That was a big one. Martin is commenting about Bonanza. I mean, and High Chaparral. Bonanza was on
the TV shows,
television shows, many, many years. Hey, real quick, I want to say hi to Eva. Eva's joining us. Eva, welcome. Good to see you out there tonight. Brennan said Macabre and Mrs. Miller.
McCabe and Mrs. Miller, yeah. It's a Robert Altman movie. Yeah. But yeah, another revisionist Western.
You remember the Big Valley was very popular.
With Barbara Stanwyck,
Stanwyck, Lee Majors,
right?
Richard Long. Those folks were in that.
Yeah. But it seemed like they started to dry up in the 70s to some extent. But then Star Wars came out and was such a huge hit, and then suddenly the Westerns moved to outer space.
Well, you remember Battlestar Galactica? There was an episode with Apollo, and it was called the Lost. Was it the Long Patrol or the Lost Warrior? And what happens is he lands on that planet, and it's where the Cylon, who they deemed as Red Eye, because he came damaged. And what happened was he was always challenging, because he was damaged. That one guy that pretty much owned the town found him, and the Cylon looked at him, and he said, "By your command." And then from that point on, he essentially obeyed him, and nobody would challenge him, because he if they tried to take a pot shot at him, it wouldn't matter, because he had a laser pistol. And it was, that whole story was circled around that. And then the woman that Apollo winds up meeting, she's a widow, and then her son and everything. And then what happens is he finds out that the woman, the guy that she had married, was a colonial warrior and tried to take on Red Eye, but lost. And it was like the whole thing was going to happen again. But it was
this is our first digression within a digression. Everybody say, what are they talking about Westerns for? Because we're old men, that's why. Old men watch Westerns. But
and we're old men.
Well, I mean, Battlestar Galactica was a wagon train in space. I mean, they were.
And Star Trek was a wagon train to the stars. I mean, that's how Gene Roddenberry,
Well, yeah. Well, he compared it to the show wagon train, but there weren't you had a fleet in Battlestar. Well, I guess there wasn't a fleet anymore. It was just the Battlestar or just the Galactica in the end. But at any rate, so yeah, the Western tropes were picked up, and none more so than an Outland, as your coworker points out. It's just basically a remake of High Noon, or there are a lot of echoes. It's not like a strict remake, but I mean, it's enough that a lot of critics and people in the audience picked it up at the time the movie was out.
Exactly. Oh, Eva's saying drink. Did I say camaraderie?
Don't mind if I do. Yeah.
Hey, Claudia said that was a good episode. She remembered. And Colin has got our backs. He's saying the ticker tape is so that no one will forget what film or show we are digressing about.
That's right. It's our net. Right.
Martin commented, Battle Beyond the Stars, a.k.a. the Magnificent Seven in space. Right. Good one. It's very...
By that point, yeah, they were getting pretty self-conscious about that. Well, that was a little tongue-in-cheek anyway. You even had Robert Vaughn in it, wasn't he? He was in the Magnificent Seven. He turned up in Battle Beyond the Stars too. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, Eva commented, the good, the bad, and the ugly, of course. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But at any rate, so yeah, you have the parallels to High Noon in the movie. The lone marshal who is righteous and has to stand up to all these gunmen that are coming back to town, and can't get help from the community, and so and you have the clocks ticking down as they keep showing the clock, and
that was unnerving, wasn't it, Ross? Can you imagine? I mean, we'll get into that, folks, but it's really, it's like the countdown. I mean, it's till like high noon, literally. It's
Connery didn't seem as nervous as Gary Cooper did, though.
Yeah.
In this, well, he used the time constructively to prepare, to hide all his shotguns.
That got discovered.
They got discovered, exactly.
Martin commented, Moon 03. Dennis Chevalier is joining us from Canada as well. Dennis, welcome. Good to see you out there tonight. Glad you can be out there. Star Trek, was talking about Star Trek, the Spectre of the Gun. That was the third season opener, right. And that was Doc Holliday at the OK Corral.
Those were pretty overt, though. The Cylon and because they actually used cowboys in those episodes. Because didn't they? It's been decades since I've seen the Cylon episode, but he was the gunslinger, right?
Yes.
Yeah,
he was
basically. Yeah, and Westworld. I mean, we can talk about Westworld, although that's not in space. That's
it's on Earth.
It's on Earth with Yul Brynner.
Yeah, that's another good one with that.
Who, of course, was in Magnificent Seven. So,
right.
Also, and a bunch of other westerns. He was in a spaghetti western, one of the Sabata films. Sabata. That if you really want me to digress, Lee Van Cleef was in the first and third, but they couldn't get him to be in the second one. Oh, you know why? Because he had to come to America to be in the Magnificent Seven sequel.
Oh, was that the reason?
Yeah, so he came to the United States to play the Yul Brynner role in one of the sequels of Magnificent Seven, and Yul Brynner went and took Lee Van Cleef's place to play Sabata in the spaghetti western. And then I can't say they switched back because Brynner never went back to Magnificent Seven, but Cleef went back and finished up that trilogy, which is one of the crazier spaghetti western trilogies.
So in your opinion, when would you say that the spaghetti westerns kind of fell off? Was it the late 60s?
Well, the golden age of spaghetti westerns, early 70s, but they kept making them. The Italians, as soon as something becomes a big hit in the United States, they just like grab it and they wring it dry, They do like, 6,000 knockoffs of it until nobody would go to see it anymore. And they would steal the titles, They would, within the limits of not getting sued.
Right.
They wound up changing, I think, the name for Star Crash. I can't remember what they were originally going to call it, but
Star Crash. You mean with Stella Star?
Yeah, and they would steal from each other. Like somebody would make a movie and it would have I don't know, like Hercules' name in it or something like that. Oh, you know what? Like Django. we'll say
Mhm.
Django because that's a spaghetti western thing. You know,
Right.
was Franco Nero was Django, and what happened then was everybody stole the title Django for their spaghetti westerns, even though it had nothing to do with the movie, but it was a western. And there's really nothing, you know, I don't know what the laws are over there, but they come out with dozens of Django movies
Yeah.
until people would stop, seeing them. Now this is a big digression now, but yeah, I would say the spaghetti western, the golden age of the spaghetti western, kind of was in decline by the early '70s,
That's
but they
what I
kept
thought.
making them.
Yeah,
What's that?
that's what I thought, but they still kept, they continued with them anyway.
Yeah, they got a little more violent and a little more, nihilistic as time went on,
Hmm.
um, until they went on to the next craze.
Sue commented, DeForest Kelly was in the gunfight at the OK Corral, so it was art imitating art. Yeah, that's
Yeah,
right.
and it's interesting because what's her name, Frances Sternhagen, who plays the doctor in this movie, has a little bit of a McCoy vibe about her, like
She has.
the
She really
cynical
does.
doctor. Yeah.
She did really well in this film. Hey, I see Catherine Speck is joining us. Catherine, welcome. Good to see you out there. Thanks for joining us. She's saying, "Hey guys, great to see you both. Outland saw the movie in house. Connery was the draw. The original James Bond in outer space. Loved him and some of the interplay with the actors. I was not a big fan of the film. It was disappointing. Perhaps I should give it a second look or just watch High Noon once again. Connery can never top his performances in FRWL and Goldfinger. Awesome."
Oh, From Russia with Love.
From
Yeah.
Russia with Love. Yeah, actually, interesting enough, Catherine, From Russia with Love is probably one of my favorite James Bond movies. In fact, it's probably my favorite of the Connery films. That's always been a favorite. Um, yeah,
I thought this was a solid movie, but yeah, I don't think it has quite the resonance of High Noon. You know, it has the trappings of High Noon, but it
hmm
doesn't really get so much into the character uh, as High Noon does with Gary Cooper's, Will Kane. Um, but
yeah. It's this movie is really good, but
mm,
it just needs a little bit more of something. It
yeah,
has the oomph, but it's just something is just a little off, and I'm not sure if it was character development. I mean, because we are exposed to the characters we find. I mean, Sean Connery, we learn a lot about him as far as he's been placed on this moon, and he really doesn't want to be there. His family definitely doesn't want to be there, and it's just even when he's going back and forth and taunting Peter Boyle's character, pretty much Peter Boyle just tells him he's a pain in the neck, and he's just been placed here because he's a troublemaker. And it's almost like he's trying to make things right, but it really never gets any deeper than that. We really never find out about the history, except that we know that he is trying to make sure that things get straightened out because people are dying. And it's that's like the focal point, but
yeah,
we
yeah.
really don't go beyond that.
He senses that maybe maybe everybody's right and he's not good enough and he deserves to be on these outposts doing these
Right.
crummy jobs, and he wants to prove to himself that he's better than that. I thought the interplay between Connery and Sternhagen was terrific. I love
Yes.
those scenes where the doctor is his only real ally on this outpost. Um, but yeah, it's a little weak with the when they send the gunman at the end. You want like something a little more imposing instead of like these rubes that show up. They're supposedly like the greatest hitmen in the galaxy or something, but they're really not the sharpest knives in the drawer. And at first you see all the shadows coming on, as the people are getting off the shuttle, and you think, wow, they really sent a lot of people to get him. Because in High Noon, there's more than two guys, but here they
Well,
send
there's a lot of
two
buildup with
guys.
this film,
Yeah,
and just to remind folks, essentially what's happening is they have a new. It's almost like a new sheriff is in town. What is it like? It's a new marshal that's in town, or
right.
on this base once a year, I guess. Every year there's a switch out, and Peter Boyle is playing Mark Shepard, and he's the one who pretty much runs this facility for the company, and
Right.
he's trying to make sure that the quotas are being met. And what's happening is the men are being drugged, and the drug is causing them to die essentially. And Connery finds out about this, and he knows, that the the shenanigans is going on, and he's trying to dig deeper and deeper into it, and he's unraveling things. And as all of this is happening, he's finding out that the corruption is not just within Shepard's men, but it's also within his own deputies. In fact, there's that one line when he goes into the bar, and he's pretty much knowing that there's going to be a shuttle that's going to be sent to the moon within, I think it's within like a few days, and they're counting down, like, what is it, like 70, 100 hours or 90 hours or whatever it is. And it's just, the clock is just ticking. And when it gets really close to that time, he goes into the bar and pretty much saying, he could use some help. And then one of the guys says, well, you're supposed to be helping us. You're supposed to be protecting us. And he goes, what about your deputies? And, and then he says, my deputies are,
Yeah. Now all that is lifted right out of High Noon, except for that line.
But
if Coop said it, it didn't make it on screen.
Now, Lou just commented. He said there were supposed to be 3 greenhouses at Con Am 27, but one of the models didn't make it across the lot when it was accidentally dropped. Ouch. Wow.
Yeah. I couldn't help but think with the greenhouse scene in this movie, I immediately thought of Silent Running, and poor Bruce Dern.
Right.
My plants.
And incidentally, I think they were trying to get Bruce Dern for this movie too.
Yeah. What part was he supposed to? Oh, he's supposed to play the James P. Sicking part.
Yeah.
They had him in mind for that.
I can see that.
Yeah, and Colleen Dewhurst was originally going to play the Frances Sternhagen, the doctor, and I think she would have done a good job.
I think so. Gene Hackman, I think, was a consideration potentially for Connery's part.
Yeah, Gene Hackman. Who were the others there? It was, Mr. Barbara Streisand. What's his name?
Oh my goodness. Oh my God.
James Brolin.
James Brolin, yeah.
James Brolin was another consideration, and Clint Eastwood they had considered. I don't know if they ever actually offered the part to any of these guys, but I think they all would have done a pretty good job with it.
Dennis said that he was half expecting an alien to get off the shuttle when it arrived. Lots of laughs. That's the other thing too, because we were talking about this. There was talk that there was, at least within the world of this movie, that there was a connection with the company that is being the same company as the company that's pretty much involved in the movie Alien or Aliens. Yeah. And pretty much why we connected this with this, but it was more of an urban legend. It really wasn't. Yeah,
I think it was something concocted by fans, but also the fact, I think a lot of people that actually worked on the film worked on Alien. I'm not talking about like major people. Well, I mean, they're major, but people responsible for the look of Alien, I think, carried over some of that to Outland. And it's interesting. I was thinking about it. It was the Ladd company that distributed this film. And they also did Blade Runner, which I also kind of lump in with Alien. They all have kind of that same look. But Ladd was at 20th Century Fox when Alien was greenlit. He was one of the guys that pushed for Alien to get made. So there is a connection behind the scenes, even if there's not an actual connection. But yeah, the company, what is it? Wayland Yutani in Alien,
right?
And here it's
Con Am, right?
Yeah, Con Am, Amalgamate, which apparently I had forgotten, but it was mentioned in Capricorn 1, which Hyams also
Peter Hyams
directed. Yeah,
that movie as well.
Yeah,
which we talked about. That was actually that's a favorite.
Yeah, well, and there's your James Brolin connection, because he had already worked with Hyams. And Connery came back and worked with him on the Presidio. Yes. But Hyams was also a screenwriter, and he was a cinematographer. And in fact, he filmed most of this movie.
Well, there's also a backstory in regards to the cinematographer that was involved in this movie.
Yeah.
In regards to
Tell it, Ross. Yeah,
Tell it, Ross.
Stephen Goldblatt was hired to be the cinematographer, but really it was just kind of like an insurance policy, so he could have him on hand in case anything happened. If something came up where he really needed a professional to step in. Although Hyams had lensed had filmed a lot of stuff before and after. But Goldblatt wasn't real happy about it because he signed on mainly. They had this new process for special effects.
Right.
What did they call it? It was introvision. I'm introversion. It's introvision. It has nothing to do with introverts. Introvision, which supposedly had, you had front projection, you had back projection, but this thing, they were able to project on 2 levels and have the actors be able to interact with walk in between these things. So, this is a new process. And, that's why Hyams wanted him there, in case he couldn't figure it out, I think it was.
Well, an example of that was when he was, when he goes into Marshal O'Neill, Sean Connery, goes to see Peter Boyle's character, who's Shepard, and he's playing golf. And they were using that projection for that. It was interesting, which was a big deal at the time. I mean, you got to remember, this was 42 years ago too. I mean, this which is kind of crazy, but
I kind of thought I kind of thought that they must have been using a lot when they were outside, like in the opening scene where they're drilling for whatever they're harvesting there off of the moon of Jupiter, there, Io. Because you had things where there were obviously models, and there were but when the actors came in, there were things that kind of looked like matte paintings.
Right.
I wondered if they were using the process for those.
Yeah, in fact, Randy even commented about that. The special effects team used a technique called slit scan to create the glowing blue energy shields in the movie. This technique was also used in movies like 2001: Space Odyssey and Star Trek: The Motion Picture. But to your point, incorporating the actors with the model effects was what I guess was part of this new type of process, and it came across really well, I thought. I mean, it was very believable, especially during the outer space sequences that were taking place towards the end of the movie, when they're trying to pretty much go after Connery, O'Neill's character.
Yeah, I thought it looked pretty good. I had some issues with but I mean, you could it was never explained in the movie, and I'm sure if you had a couple of like guys sitting around a bar arguing about it, we could make up reasons there would be gravity around the outside of the station. It's like maybe he had weighted boots, or maybe, but it made no sense at some point that the gun gets knocked away and falls down,
right?
As it would in Earth's gravity, when they didn't have that.
You would think it would just float, right?
Right, exactly, because sometimes things would float and sometimes things would fall down. So.
Hey, I want to welcome Jeffrey out there, Jeffrey Morris. Jeffrey, welcome. Good to see you out there watching the show.
That was the best line. The Marshal joke. That was the best line in the movie for me. When Sternhagen says, take 2 aspirin and call me in the morning. That's a doctor joke. And he goes through that whole thing with her about the autopsies is what it was.
Right.
I like it really soon. Or I might just kick your nasty ass all over this room. That's a Marshal joke.
They had the camaraderie going on.
Yeah. They looked at her face afterwards. Yeah. She knew he loved her.
Oh yeah. Lou's saying, more digression. Silent Running was released 51 years ago today. You're welcome.
Oh, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Good call, Lou. Good call.
Yeah. I like the fact that they got Sternhagen to play the doctor. It's. I don't know that they would do it today. If they made the movie today, that she wouldn't be a conventional choice, kind of.
Well, let's share some slides and just remind the folks, the viewers.
But you needed a character like that to play that role, and that's why I think Colleen Dewhurst also would have been good in the role.
Well, her background now, my goodness, in regards to Frances Sternhagen, I mean, theater. I mean, her extensive theater background.
Oh yeah, a lot of theater. And in fact, she was in the original run of Driving Miss Daisy. She didn't create the role, but she was one of the actresses that was in the original. She might have been the third person to play the title
role, right? Yeah. She did it for about 2 years too, so which was very impressive. Yeah, did a lot of stuff, taught acting, did dance. She was involved in her drama club right from the beginning in high school when she started out. So it really, really came through.
And she was in an Edward Albee play with Colleen Dewhurst and Jessica Tandy. They were all three in the same
Oh, there you go.
play. Yeah. So, and there you have James B. Sicking.
Yep. And interesting enough, I gotta give Shari credit on this one.
Yeah.
I did not realize that, and since we're referencing him, all roads lead to Star Trek, folks, as it always does. He was in Star Trek 3, The Search for Spock, and he was Captain Styles. And,
yeah, see, I always recognized him from Hill Street Blues.
Right.
He was always smoking the pipe with the turtleneck and the hat.
Yep.
You know?
He was also Doogie Howser's dad on.
Yeah, I read that, but I never really saw that show. But yeah.
But Shari picked him out. She said, he looked really, really familiar. Now, obviously, would have gone through the names and would have done the research, but I gotta give her credit on that one. Thank you, hon. Good job. But she caught that.
And seeing Star Trek 3 at the time in the theater when it came out, it was like, wait a minute, that's the guy from Hill Street Blues. Because I think it was still on when Star Trek 3 was made.
Yes. Yeah, it probably was. Yeah, absolutely, Ross. Yeah.
Talk about,
he was the one threatening Kirk. Kirk, if you do this, you'll never sit in a command chair again.
We'll talk about TV actors. John Ratzenberger turns up in the opening scene of this. I don't know what the story is with that guy, how he managed to be in every movie. I mean, he never had more than a line, but he was in every movie.
He did a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, he became very, as what Cliff from Cheers.
Right.
But still, I mean, yeah, he did a lot.
He because you go back and you watch Superman or you watch The Empire Strikes Back or even Gandhi, and he turns up, and it's like, what is John Ratzenberger doing in Gandhi?
He's a working actor.
What kind of universe am I in? But oddly, in this I didn't realize Sternhagen, who played the doctor in this movie, went on to play Ratzenberger's character's mother in Cheers a few years later. She had a run on that series. So they worked together, even though they're not in any of the same scenes in Outland.
Shari said, "You're welcome. I recognize him."
Yeah, I did too. He has a very distinctive face.
Yeah.
So we get to see Ratzenberger explode in this one. So that's that was satisfying.
Randy commented the film was originally rated R, but it was later rated PG when it was released on video.
Huh. I always bring up the fact that I feel like I was a sensitive kid because, here I am, I'm 14 years old going to the movies, and I watched this movie in a state of perpetual, tension, that something awful was going to happen at any moment. Well, I mean, you get the explosion in the first scene, but I go in and it's like, oh, it's an R movie. It's just like Excalibur. It's like, ooh, are there going to be any arm loppings in this movie? I'm like this. Of course, there were arm loppings.
Honestly, though, thinking back on this Ross, remembering when this was out, like you said, to your point, we would have been about 14 years. Well, yeah, 14 years old. Yeah, going on 15 in July.
Right.
When these science fiction movies were coming out, we were approaching them and enjoying them for that reason. Now, granted, this was a little bit more on the violent side, and probably I don't know. I'm trying to remember. Well, you saw it with your mom, and you saw it with Herb, and I'm assuming Angela was with you. So I mean, you saw it as a family.
And she was younger than me. Yeah.
Right. Exactly. But
not a Mega Man young.
Yeah, he wasn't a Mega Man. Yeah, exactly.
He wasn't a Mega Man young. Yeah.
But when we saw this movie, when I saw this movie, I probably saw it with Joe, and I'm almost positive I did. Mrs. Metz, God rest her soul, she used to go to the movies with us. She would, take us if they were like R-rated. And then it would be, like the small gang and Mrs. Metz like chaperoning us. And then, Joe would subject her to these films because, they were sci-fi related, but that was like almost like our ticket in, you know what I mean? In regards to that. But we were, we were in for it because of the models, the special effects, the fact that it's dealing with sci-fi
and Connery.
And I mean, God, it was James Bond. I mean, it was James Bond 10 years ago. It was such a long time ago that he was Bond. My God, it was, 1971.
And Jerry Goldsmith.
Goldsmith,
But you know, I mean, they had scenes like you know, where the guy goes crazy with the knife with the prostitute, and it's a very intense scene for you know, for a kid to be. See, it was very adult kind of gritty, you know, and even the bar where they go with the perpetual you know, sexual dances going on in the laser light and stuff. It's, you know, they deliberately grit it up, so it's not like for Star Wars audiences. It's not for kids really.
Right.
But it was interesting that the guy who plays the knife wielder actually turned out to be Stephen Burkoff, who's perpetually, you know, the villain. He's oh wait, no. I got him mixed up with. Wait, was he the knife wielder or was he the drug dealer?
I thought he was the drug dealer.
He was the drug dealer. I'm sorry. Yeah, because he's the one that he always plays you know, like an evil, you know, Soviet soldier or a Nazi. In fact, he played Hitler once. I remember. I think in War and Remembrance. You know, the
Oh, really?
Yeah, he always plays the bad guy, but he has a good sense of humor about it. He loves playing the villain. He was a big theater guy too, and actually, you know, was a playwright. May still be, I don't know, but you know, he didn't care. He thought that the villains were the best roles always.
Well,
although
it's funny. It's funny you're talking about that because I was just talking to. Well, I was talking. Well, I don't want to further. Go ahead, Ross. I was just
going to say, although he did get upset when a journalist called him ugly. I guess it was in the Sunday Times, the London paper there, and he wound up suing him for libel, and won.
And he won.
And he won. But yeah, don't just, you know, he likes playing the villain. Just don't call him ugly.
Hey, Sean Tabor's out there. Sean, welcome. Good to see you out there. He said you can find movie wardrobe on eBay, Postmark, and Etsy reasonable. This would be the caps worn by the cast. They were sold by the production, the Lad Company, which we were just talking about. Thanks for pointing that out, Sean. And Sean actually, and he had messaged me a few days ago too, and I forgot to get in contact with him. So Sean, I do apologize for that. It's been kind of a crazy week, but Sean had posted on the show's page that he does own a uniform from this movie.
Wow.
So, and in fact, I was going to say if he had it available to come on, you know, to show it, but he has it in storage. So, but yeah, I thought that was pretty cool.
That is cool. Yeah.
Liz just commented, the great Alan Rickman once said that he didn't play villains. He played interesting people. Yeah, very well said. Yeah, because a villain does not necessarily think they're bad, right? I mean, they've got their own convictions. I mean, that's the spin on it, right?
Yeah. And Burkoff did think, you know, that they were interesting, the villains that he played. But I don't know. Like, I'm thinking like Rambo. At the beginning of Rambo. And I think, well, that's pretty cartoonish, but again, violent though. You know, I do love the fact that they gritted this up to the point where, like Alien, it really seemed like a lived-in. I mean, Star Wars seemed lived in too, but you know, they got really lived in it to the point where, you know, you really didn't want to touch anything.
Right.
Kind of like you could really feel what it would be like to live on this mining colony, and the fact that, you know, there are no lasers, they're using you know, like you know, pump shotguns and pump action shotguns and you know, they're swinging. They actually had swinging doors on the police station there, which I thought was a cool touch. Also, you know, when he gets the shotguns, it's kind of like in the westerns where they always have the guns on the rack when they have to go out and check out, like in Rio Bravo, they grab the guns and run out. And so yeah, there are all kinds of things to root it in a familiar reality, you know, especially if you're accustomed to having seen, you know, so many westerns and things.
Now, what was your favorite part of this film, Ross?
My favorite part?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, you know, the punch is satisfying. A little unrealistic if that's all it took to like clean the place up, because you should have just done that in the first scene and got it over with.
I think everybody was waiting for that to happen too.
How about you? Why, do you have something in mind?
No, I thought that was very satisfying when he finally confronts Shepard at the end as well.
Yeah.
I was was just curious.
That the whole chase with Burkhoff was well executed. Where they throw the drugs in the boiling water and he has to reach in the pot and everything. I mean, it was a good chase scene.
It was
for the era.
It was definitely effective. I really did like the camaraderie between
absolutely
between
yes,
Connery and Francis. So I thought they did a really, really exceptional job with that. It was very natural, and he's being really almost like a hard ass with her when he at first, because that's just kind of like his personality. But he realizes that she's not just there to give him a hard time; she's there to help him, and she's trying to do the right thing also. But she really doesn't. She's limited on what she can do.
Right. But like him, she's not sentimental. And in fact, when they have the farewell at the end, it's like totally stiff upper lip,
Yeah,
and totally realistic,
Yeah, the way it was played,
because it was for the characters,
Yeah, they didn't alter that piece of it, so which was really good. Sean just sent me some photos in regards to the cap. So I'm just going to share these and put these up. Sean, thanks for putting these through. And here we go. And what he commented was, he said, if you can get them up, I sent pics of the cap currently for sale. And this is from the movie.
Oh, 1980, right there. Yeah.
Yep.
Princely sum of $30. There you go. It's a piece of history.
Yeah, that's pretty neat.
Yeah.
Thanks for sending those through, Sean. Appreciate it. So I thought I would share that.
Nice.
Yeah.
So I did catch there were a lot of James Bond connections. A lot of people involved with the movie were involved with the Bond movies over the years. But I did catch a couple of Star Wars connections too.
Did you?
I did, but I didn't. There was, the actor Angus McGinnis. Do you recognize the name?
Angus McGinnis actually did a Space 1999 episode.
Well,
so
of course you recognize his name.
He was in Devil's Planet.
I don't remember seeing him in the movie, but apparently he was in the movie, and he was, gold leader in in Star Wars, which only people our age would know from having watched the movie 75 times. Every name in the credits. It's like, wait a minute.
Ross, 76. Sorry. Yeah, Angus McGinnis. In fact, this is Gold Leader. He's got the really deep voice. Yeah.
So he had a part. He played a character named Hughes, but I didn't remember him being in the what part he was playing in the movie.
Yeah, I didn't catch him in this. That's funny.
He was in the police station or what? They would bother to name him in the credits. But and Stephen Burkhoff's character was named Sagan. Did you notice that?
Yes, for Carl Sagan. Yeah, it was a tribute. Yeah. It was a tribute. That I did notice.
Yeah, yes. I thought, boy, what a backhanded salute that is. Make him the drug dealer, the villainous drug dealer. But but as far as a Star Wars connection, it was also a James Bond connection. John Steers was involved with the movie, who was, he won an Academy Award for working on Star Wars and also Thunderball. He was the guy who designed the Bond Aston Martin, and also a lot of the mechanical effects in Star Wars, like the land speeder and the sand crawler and R2-D2 and C-3PO and the lightsabers and the Death Star and all that stuff. They figured out the trash compactor and all that stuff. So he was involved with this.
But you know what, Ross, that makes sense because it's right in that time frame too. So it would have only been probably maybe 5 years difference. Yeah.
He did some other stuff that we've talked about. I remember maybe it was one of the James Bond movies that we were talking about. So that's my other Star Wars connection.
No, there you go. I mean, and I didn't catch the Space 1999 convention, or else I would have put that up there too. So, Liz with Angus, Liz commented, like the weapons racks and the Eagles on Space 1999. What were you referring to about?
Well, maybe with the guns and when they grab them out of the racks.
Oh, okay.
Maybe that's what she was referring to. Yeah. And the editor on the film, Stuart Baird, was involved in a lot of things that we know and love, like Superman and the Richard Donner films, and the Lethal Weapon, Lady Hawk, which of course I didn't care much for, but he was involved with that. And he worked on the James Bond, the Daniel Craig James Bond movies, a couple of those. I think Skyfall, and maybe Casino Royale was the first one that he did.
We've talked about Stuart Baird a few times, and he's really had an extensive career. So yes.
Yeah. So just picking those out at random because they were names I recognized.
Yeah,
from other movies we've talked about. Not to discount anybody else's contribution.
You know, and speaking of individuals, I mean, Peter Boyle, we had talked about Young Frankenstein when we talked about that.
and you know, that's what I was picturing when I was watching this movie. I remember in the theater, it's like, oh, it's the monster from Young Frankenstein.
But what a career he had too. I mean, pretty much was closing in, you know, for what, about 7 years, I think, from 96 to 2005, he was on Everybody Loves Raymond. And I guess he was very, very close with the cast. Nominated for an Emmy 7 times, but he never took one. But was very instrumental and very close with the cast as far as teaching and friendship and everything too. Ray Romano was very moved, you know, by his passing.
Yeah. He was born he grew up in Philly. You know, he was born in Norristown.
Yeah, it's right down the road from here.
Yeah, and his dad was a Philadelphia television personality. He had one of those. You remember they used to have shows for the kids after school where they would show, you know, like Popeye Theater, that like a Sally Star kind of thing. You know, he had his own show, and what was it called? Uncle Pete Presents the Little Rascals was the name of his show, and he showed Popeye and the Three Stooges and stuff like that, Little Rascal shorts. And he was also involved with you know, some of Ernie Kovacs's early, you know, Philadelphia stuff. Right. His dad, that is. That's not Peter Boyle.
Right.
You know, Peter went to LaSalle, and then he worked as a cameraman on some television show. I'm not sure what it was, but he worked a lot of odd jobs before he got into acting. Then
I didn't realize he was in the movie Taxi Driver.
Yes, that's right. Yeah, he's one of De Niro's one of the other hacks hanging out with De Niro.
Yeah.
Yeah, he turned down French Connection. He was offered French Connection, and he didn't do it. Can you believe it? But he was in a movie called Joe. I don't know if you remember that. It was always on WOR TV. They would show it all the time on a Saturday afternoon or Sunday afternoon.
I did see that came out around 1970, and that was one of his earlier movies.
He was in The Candidate with Robert Redford, and he was in a lot of stuff, not all comedies. So, but you know, I always think of him for Young Frankenstein, and of course later on in life he did Everyone Loves Raymond, but that was after Outland,
which I really thought was hysterical because here I knew him from Young Frankenstein, and then in Outland he was such like a badass. I mean, he was just like this really, really terrible, you know, character. I mean, and then on Everybody Loves Raymond, it's like, you know, he's just like this big lovable guy.
Yeah. Well, it is such a banality of evil kind of thing too, to use that, you know, hackneyed phrase, because he's so matter of fact about, like, you know, his badness. You know, it's like, this is the way the company operates, and you know what I mean. It's like you can almost, you know, it is morally reprehensible, but you almost can't even, you know, he's not evil enough to be, you know, to want to punch out. You know what I mean? He's just he's a sleaze, but you know, he's not a mustache twirling villain. Basically up to the point where he says, you know, you're dead. You know, before that, he has that very, he has a lot of composure and just says, you know, yeah, the workers are happy. When they're happy, they produce more. When they produce more, the company's happy. When the company's happy, I'm happy, kind of thing.
Right.
You know, even though it's
all about the money.
Yeah. Of course, it's all about the corrupt corporation and his corruption. You know, Peter Boyle's corruption.
Oh, David is asking a question. This is a very good question. He's posing it to us. Do you think Montone actually sent O'Neill the coded message about the shipment, or do you think it was a set trap by Shepard? That's a good question.
That is a good question.
Hmm.
Of course, Connery anticipated it with a special collar.
Right. Yes.
But yeah, because I wondered why they would bother to the spoiler alerts here, but I
Right.
wondered why they would bother to bump off Montone,
Yeah.
really, when he wasn't really helping in any way. He was one of the guys that was standing out of the way and just taking the money and looking the other way.
That's what he got paid for. Yeah.
Right. But for them to bump him off, I mean, it's, I don't know. There could have been more to it.
Good question. He said he always wondered that. No. Very good question. What do you think? We want to know. Hey, I'm going to share. We were talking about the countdown earlier, and they just kept doing this, and this is like, as the clock is turning. I mean, a lot of movies have done this, and
right,
it works. I mean, I was talking about Star Trek earlier. In Spectre of the Gun, they kept referring that 5 o'clock was when they were going to meet the the Clantons were going to go up against the Earps. But
yeah, that would. I wonder if they were also playing on high noon. Well, I mean, there's there are a lot of westerns that do that, and then of course it's 3:10 to Yuma with Glenn Ford, where they got to get on the train at 3:10. They got to meet the train. They got to get. If they miss it, and Glenn Ford keeps trying. He and his gang of outlaws are trying to delay it and get out of the getting put on the train at 3:10.
Right.
So that Van Heflin, has to face him.
Yeah, it definitely has echoings of that. Sue just posed this. Yeah, speaking of the Little Rascals, Roy. Yeah, Robert Blake yesterday. I heard about that, Sue, about his passing, and I very much remember Beretta. I mean, I remember that being on. I think it was on ABC. It was on in the 70s, and yeah, he was one of the original Little Rascals. So
and what's the other one? In Cold Blood.
Yeah,
he was in that, and a movie called Electra Glide in Blue. I'll never forget that. Temple, I say Temple, I mean, Temple University. They had the film program there, and that was quite the film where he plays a cop. And talk about it like it was like the inverse of Easy Rider.
Easy Rider, wow, yeah.
Another downer movie, but with cops instead of bikers, counterculture bikers.
Lou saying, "Least we forget 410."
The Hackensack. There you go. The sequel. Yeah. And Lost Highway with David Lynch. David Lynch's Lost Highway. Robert Blake is a memorable, small part in that. You'll never forget it though once you see it.
Oh, Sean just commented too. He said, "One more FYI to the Thinking Cap Company. They were also the authorized company that issued hats for the original Alien movie. Those do not have the Lad Company on the inside." Oh, interesting. Thanks for sharing, Sean.
Well, I think at the point that Alien was the Lad Company around yet when they did Alien, or did he found that right after that? Because remember, he was at 20th Century Fox first.
I think it was after that. I could be wrong, but I think it was after.
Even though
yes, I remember being it. Yeah.
And I forgot. It renewed my memory of it today, but I forgot that John Williams did the music for the Lad Company logo. Which I didn't realize at the time. You'd think I would have picked it up immediately, being so in tune with his music. But having seen the Lad Company logo all those years, I never realized he had done the logo music for it.
I didn't realize that.
Well, he did Amblin, of course.
Yep, Amblin Entertainment.
Yeah.
Oh, Sean said founded in 1979.
Okay.
So it would have been before. And speaking of Sean too, going to be having Sean on in the near future. In fact, I wanted to in March, but the time is getting, it's crazy how time is just flying. But talking about doing Project Blue Book, Project UFO. Did you watch that, Ross?
I remember it. I don't remember if I watched it. I didn't watch it did I watch it?
It was on Sunday.
I'm trying to think if I watched it with regularity. It was on a Sunday night, then I didn't watch it.
It was on Sunday nights. It was on NBC.
Yeah, most likely I did watch it then. At least some of it. Several. I'm sure I've seen it.
77. I think it was 77, 70. I think it was on for 2 seasons, and I think it started in 77. If I remember correctly.
I probably watched it.
Yeah.
I seem to remember it's the two guys, right?
Yep.
Yeah, there's always two guys.
Not to be confused with the department store.
Not to be. It wasn't 10 Speed and Brown Shoe. I know that.
Oh my goodness, that's Jeff Goldblum.
Yeah.
Wow.
Ben Vereen.
We're digging the memories out tonight, folks.
Oh man, watch that one. I remember. Yeah.
Get the cobwebs out. Oh boy, yeah. It's yeah. Martin is saying, hopefully Sean Connery put his clock forward, else he would have missed the shootout. That's true.
Hey, I know. We turn the clocks to tomorrow night.
Yep.
Too. So remember that if you have hired killers coming in on the shuttle, set your clocks. What was the other one where they were always looking at their watches? There's another Western like that. Well, one of the Clint Eastwood ones. It was not the time so much as the fact that it was a music. Had the watch played music, and when the music ended, that's when they would draw. With I guess it was it Klaus Kinski? No, it was Klaus Kinski was in it. It was the second one. It was for a few dollars more. It was Lee Van Cleef and Clint. But that's not what I was thinking of, though.
Fistful of Dollars, Martin. Thank you.
That was the first. Oh, was that in the first one? With the watch that played the music? For some reason, I thought it was the second, but maybe you're right.
We will.
Having only seen all of them 20 times.
It's all blending.
How could I possibly know?
It's all blending together.
They do kind of run together.
Hopefully for the last time, if they passed a bill to end DST. Yeah, I know. That's what they're talking about, daylight savings.
So they didn't do it yet. You told me they did it.
I thought they did, but then I
mean, we'd be screwed. I mean, yeah, because I thought you were saying that they were gonna. This was it. We're gonna go to daylight savings time and stay on daylight savings time.
I thought we were,
which would totally destroy, all mankind.
Allie and I were talking about this morning at work, and Gwen and Mark, I think, was talking about it too. Mark's out there about just how they, it goes back and forth. But I think they're doing it earlier this year too, or maybe they've been doing it earlier. It used to be in April, and then they bumped it up.
Yeah, it was during the Bush administration that they had changed it. I don't know if they pushed it even earlier, but that's when they had changed it last, to my knowledge. But at the end of daylight saving, if they want to just keep it on standard time, I'm cool with that. But I don't want to be sitting here in the dark at 10 a.m.
Brendan said yes, Ross. It was the second one for a few dollars more.
Oh, okay. Well, thank you, Brendan. I thought I was losing my mind.
Yeah, I thought they did too, Paul. Yeah.
But,
anyway,
that's the one where Clint lights the match off the back of Kinski's neck. Lights his cigar.
Clint. The good old days. Here's another sharing this little when they have that battle where they're it's the big chase scene. He finally gets them, and then what does he do? He puts him into a spacesuit in an anti-gravity area.
Yeah,
and he's calling him a tough guy. And then what happens is he finds him, and then pretty much he's done.
yeah, somebody gets to him. Yeah, there is a lot of blood in the movie. I don't think it's overly graphic, but just if you don't know what's coming, right, especially when you're 14 years old, it's a pretty intense movie. And another thing we should talk about is do we explode when there's a loss of pressurization in space?
Well, it's funny you're saying about that, Ross, because Mark was talking to me about that today. He was saying, that really seems unlikely. And I mean, and to Mark's point, you would freeze. I mean, space is a vacuum, so it's cold.
Yeah, I was reading about it a little bit because I thought I remembered saying, we don't really blow up like that. I mean, stuff happens to you, but you wouldn't explode like that. Yeah, and most likely you would black out before.
Yeah, before that actually happened. Hey, Christian, good. Thanks for joining us tonight.
You wouldn't blow up. Hi, Christian. Hey, yeah. So, Yeah, so kind of things like burst inside you and stuff, but
Right.
in your lungs, but you don't blow up.
It's all
Sorry to say.
it's all for the dramatics.
You like to think that your eyes would get big and you'd blow up, but
How many times have we seen that with different movies?
yeah,
Bond film comes to mind. What was it? License to Kill, and I can't even think of the actor. He's put into that pressure chamber, and then what he
no.
does is they kill the pressure, or they break the hose, and then he inflates, and then he explodes.
Well, I think there's a difference between going into, you know, yeah, I think there's a difference in if you just go to like zero uh, pressure to, because there's a way that they can do that with divers, and I'm not sure if you really blow up with that, but that'll really mess you up.
Yeah, and that's what that was like an example of. Thank you, Brennan. Yes, Anthony Zerbe.
Okay.
His name was on the tip of my tongue, and I just couldn't get to it. Mark said, "Yeah, you would turn into a freeze pop, but not explode." For the space scenes.
It's disappointing.
Yeah.
This is the science portion of the show. This is where we hold the films up to see if they stand up to science. It's the scientific scrutiny. We're known for this.
This is like what's the show? Oh my god, I can't even. Man, I'm slipping.
Oh, I know what you're talking about. Is it like a MythBusters kind of thing?
Yes, yes.
Or what was the thing you were on the show where they did that with the Gorn?
It was Hollywood Weapons. It was Hollywood Weapons, and what they did was they came up and the guy was like a Green Beret. His name is Terry. It's Terry and Larry. Larry was the weapons expert, and Terry was the Green Beret. SC even Cherry's remembering Hollywood Weapons. Thanks, on. And what happened was they went up to Ticonderoga to Terry said we're gonna put Star Trek to the test, and it was great. Those guys were great, and they were up there filming. It was in February of 2017, and yeah, I mean a bunch of us got to be on the sets when they were filming that, and actually had the opportunity to get some lines. It was really cool, and Brian Houdin was at the navigator station in his blue shirt, and then I was at the helm station in the red shirt. And it was funny. I remember the guy that the director saying to me, he goes, because I was wearing the red shirt, he goes, "Am I going to get in trouble? With I don't want, he's a red shirt at the helm station." I said, "You're covered." I said, "Don't worry." I said, there was a couple episodes. Eddie Paskey, who played Mr. Leslie, actually sat at the helm station. And then also, even with Brian, the episode with the Naked Time, the guy, and he was I think Frank Da Vinci. He was DeForest Kelly or Leonard Nimoy's stand-in, and you would see him as a background extra all the time. He'd be a security guard, a scientist. He was in the Naked Time at the navigator station in a blue shirt. So hey, we were good. We were golden. That was a lot of fun.
Is that still posted online anywhere? Because I got to see it.
I think so. I think you can catch it. Yeah, and in fact, they were running that on one of the stations. I think that show's been into like maybe 5 seasons or so at least. But yeah. Sue's even saying Hollywood Weapons with Terry Shepard and Larry Zanoff. Yeah, really can't say enough about those guys. Really, really nice. And then what they did was they went on location after they were done filming up in Ticonderoga, and they went up to Vasquez Rocks, and it was Terry versus the Gorn. If you had the opportunity, folks, check it out. It's really cool because you get to see the sets, and it's a MythBusters type show where Terry will take different scenarios from any kind of movie. I think they did Jaws, they've done Die Hard, but with Trek, obviously everyone remembers when Kirk makes his cannon and he's trying to go against the Gorn. And what they did was they actually had this type of cannon that he made, but what they did do is they had the gunpowder already mixed, because
he had to make the gun. Yeah, right.
It was pre-mixed so that it would actually work. But the whole thing was, would it project enough if you lit it and shoot the projectiles? And they had this Gorn, and
you don't want to spoil it though.
Yeah, but I'm not going to tell you what happens, but yeah, check it out if you have to. Yeah. Yes, it's on the Outdoor Channel. Thanks, Sue, for reminding me. So yeah, it was a lot of fun though, and it was really cool. But thanks to again James Cawley, I mean, for having us be able to do that and everything. It was a lot of fun. And if you haven't been up to Star Trek, the original series set tour, here's my pitch, folks. Definitely get up there. It is amazing. The sets are incredible. You have to go up there. If you are a classic Trek fan, and even if you're a Star Trek fan, you have to check it out. William Shatner is going to be there in July. I think he's going to be there the 7th, 8th, and 9th, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Trek Conderoga's in August. It's definitely, you definitely want to check it out. So here's my public service announcement.
There you go. So we're going to do a show where I put you in a spacesuit and try to blow you up.
This is why we're friends, Ross.
Put you in zero pressure.
You know, it's funny. I was talking to I was taunting Dan Worth. I don't know if he's out there tonight. I don't think he is, but right before leaving work, and we were talking about I don't know how it came up. I said somehow it came up about Shari Lewis. I was talking about Shari, and he was saying Sherry, and I said no, because and I said no, it's Shari. And then I was like, as in Shari Lewis. And then, he knows lamb chops. And then I said, Shari Lewis wrote a classic Trek episode. And he's like, no. And he's like, which one? So I started giving him hints. And then what happened was I had to leave. And I don't know if Allie's still out there, but I said before I left, just in case Dan doesn't. And Dan is really good. I mean, he's really on point with Star Trek trivia and stuff. And he's sci-fi trivia. He's really good. And but he was trying to figure it out, and I'm like dropping all these hints. I was saying, there's a scene in this episode that they took from the beginning of the Galileo 7 for like 5 seconds. I said, if you really want to get into the nitty gritty, definitely check that out. I said, it's a 3rd season episode. Scotty's in love. He thought Wolf in the Fold, and then the pressure chamber, which you're talking about. That's why I just said that. That made me think of that because of the lights of Zetar.
So it gets us back to Outland.
Yeah, I digress.
I think Lamb Chop is making a comeback or something. I saw him at the hardware store and at the pet store. There's something with the merchandising of Lamb Chop. Even if people don't know Shari Lewis, Lamb Chop is still around. Yeah.
In fact, if Jeffrey's still out there, Jeffrey Morris, I was saying we got to get Jeffrey up there too to check out the sets because they are incredible. And Martin was just saying too that he's been up there. It's a lot of people have. Brennan was just saying too. But anyway, yes, and it is absolutely Martin. The Lights of Zetar. That's the episode. So let me see. I think I got a couple more photos I can share here just to remind folks about this cool episode. And let's do this, and let's do this. Shepard in his office and playing golf. I thought that whole thing with playing golf was kind of entertaining. Taking golf balls and shooting them at the wall, and then and then watching it.
Which kind of seemed a little futuristic when we saw it, but now it just kind of seems a little. But you know what? That's what the real future would be. You know, I mean, just like kind of, nothing that great. But I don't know. I guess maybe we would have like digital, screens or something. Who knows? But
yeah, this is true.
It was a little mundane. Yeah.
And then the space battle.
Uh-huh.
But in regards to the slides, I ended it on the slides with that.
Yeah, that's how I want to remember Connery right there.
Now, if you ask Linda how she wanted to remember Connery,
there needs to be a bandolier. Bandolier and bikini bottoms. Yeah. And don't forget the boots.
Don't forget the boots. Yeah, that's the boots.
Oh boy.
Oh, and you know what? One other thing too, and I forgot was the was in regards to Starlog magazine. As we know, Starlog magazine was the place for all information back in the day, and Starlog issue number 47, which also featured Superman 2 with Christopher Reeve on the cover, and Sarah Douglas, because there was a Sarah Douglas interview in there. Outland was also a part of that. So back when Starlog at issue 47, wow, it's crazy.
Yeah. Now, when I was looking up the credits on IMDb, I got suckered into, they have the trailer, at the top, and you have to sit there and watch the ad, and then you get the trailer for the movie or whatever. But it rolled immediately into, as they sometimes do, right into sneak previews with Gene and Roger, Gene Siskel and Roger Ebert.
Oh, right. Yep.
The episode on which they reviewed Outland from 1981. And on the same program with that was The Legend of the Lone Ranger. Do you remember that?
I do remember that. I did not see that in the theater, but I do remember that.
And what's his name was the, Christopher Lloyd was Butch Cavendish. Oh, and Jason Robards was Ulysses Grant. I forgot. But anyway, I'm watching the review, and of course they savaged it because it was a terrible movie. But I'm thinking, wow. So here's the space western, that they're going to review, and here we've got the actual. You got everything that's wrong with the western, the actual kind of a traditional western at that era, and then you have the western going to space with Outland. So which Roger did point out. I thought of it independently, but Roger did say it was a western in space, and he did bring up the High Noon parallels. He liked it very much. Oddly, Gene Siskel was not. He loved Connery in it. He liked Connery in it, and he liked Sternhagen, I think, but he was not a fan of the overall film. So
that's interesting.
But Roger liked it, so he gave it a thumbs up.
Martin was asking who built the models for this and involved with the special effects. The Outland shuttle model was built by several individuals, and I think you were talking about John Steers earlier, but then also Martin Bauer, who actually was involved with Space 1999, who had actually built a lot of models for the series, was also involved with and Bill Pearson were involved with some of the models for this movie as well too. So very good question, Martin, to ask about that. Sean comments, the Outland space shuttle. Yeah. Yep. Sean just put that information up there as well too. So thanks for sharing, Sean. Brennan said, Siskel didn't like much science fiction. No surprise there. He didn't like Terminator or Blade Runner either.
But you know what he did like? Take this job and shove it. Which Roger gave a thumbs down to, but Gene enthusiastically endorsed it.
If written today, the company would use AI and robots to accomplish the job with only a few humans on the station. Welcome to the future. Yeah. We know how much you like AI, right, Ross?
Another of my favorites. It is interesting, where they would use cards for these visual phones, like the precursor to Zoom, I guess. Where they would use the cards to patch in, like they do it in Alien 2, and not Alien 2, they do it in Alien, and they do it in even do it in 2000. Doesn't Haywood Floyd? He gets into the Hayward Floyd get into the Bell telephone or whatever it is. Yes, some outdated company, and he puts the card in, and so yeah, the future's a little off, but I do, even though everything's push button, I still I'm a sucker for that stuff for cord phones and that sort of thing. How did they get it right? But when I watch it, maybe it's because I come from a pre-digital era, it just rolls over me. Like it doesn't really jump out so much. Like I buy it. Maybe somebody though coming from a post like 1995 generation would see it and say, "Oh boy, this is like."
That's that's a good point, because if you think about it, even with our parents and everything too. I mean, when we were growing up, I mean, we had the rotary, you'd always have the dialing process. And then, of course, we got the push button. And when you got a push button telephone, it was like, whoa, this is it's something. But now we've got the iPhones, which is
you get cordless, and then the iPhone. And then you had the computer where he had to write out full sentences and ask the computer questions, and the computer would come up with it was such a like a pre-war games thing to do.
Yeah,
war games era thing to do. Yeah, that's how computers work.
Martin, one ring a ding.
There you go.
Yeah, we were just talking about her too, not too long ago. From the
from
1968
Laughing.
series Laughing. Yeah, Lily Tomlin.
Lily Tomlin, right?
Yeah, yeah.
See, we're going to be
Great.
the last ones to remember that stuff too.
Yeah, yeah. And then it'll pretty much be a faded memory. But yeah, overall though, really, really good, very enjoyable movie. Oh, you know what? We didn't show some other members of the cast too. I definitely wanted to do that.
Oops.
Now, what did you think of his son?
I thought Connery did some of the best acting of his career talking to his son, because I'm sure when the camera wasn't running, he had a few comments to make there.
Oh, boy.
Yeah, he had to be related to somebody. I didn't really look him up.
Yeah,
No,
I didn't.
how did he get that job?
Yeah, he was. Yeah.
I shouldn't trash him because he's probably watching the show right now, because he's probably 10 years younger than us.
Yeah, I mean, he's right there with us, Ross.
Yeah, I don't know. It was not my favorite part of the movie. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, no, I know. It was very forced. But, hey, Nicholas Barnes. So, hey, look at it this way. He was an Outland. How cool is that? More
Yeah. Did you look him up? Did he do anything else?
I didn't look him up.
He did a Cheerios commercial or something?
Yeah, probably.
Some with Rodney Allen Rippy.
I mean, I'm not gonna. But it was one of those moments where you're watching and then you're kind of like squirming a little bit, because it's like you almost felt bad for him, and
You know who never did anything else? Actually, it was Clinton Spilsbury.
Oh, really?
The Lone Ranger. Yeah, because of course I had to go look him up then, and yeah, it was his only real movie. Sadly, well, I mean, not sadly for us, but sadly for him. I don't want to knock him down or anything, but he was not able to get any real significant roles after that.
Interesting enough, Ross, this is going to make you feel old, but Nicholas Barnes, who was his son, is actually about 16 months younger than we are. But he's got a career though. He did a lot of different things. So, being a child actor is tough. So, I mean, to be fair, so I think as he got older, I'm sure he did more and more things, and but it maybe for whatever reason, it just seemed like he was struggling a little bit. But, it was
child actors really got a lot better. Around this time, though, it was around this time that they started to get better in the 80s, I think.
But how cool would that have been, being him in a movie with Sean Connery? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's pretty impressive. So,
well, Sean Connery is your daddy. I don't even know what that means. I hope your parents aren't watching tonight.
My mom's probably watching. I
don't even know where that came from. Sean Connery being this kid's dad. I don't know.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know.
Anyway,
maybe I'm not over my sickness after all.
Jeff commented, not to step on younger people, but I think having been around back then did give you a little more perspective on older technology. Yeah, no, well said. Good save.
Good save. Don't want to offend the young people.
No,
they never get offended.
And then the wife, the actor, she's also a British actress that played his wife in this movie, and that was Kika Markham, and I believe she did a lot of theater too as well.
Yeah, I looked at her credits. I didn't really recognize a lot of, but she was like, isn't she the sister-in-law of Redgrave or something?
I think so. Yeah, Vanessa.
She married one of the Redgraves.
Yeah. So, but yeah, definitely it was fun to watch this movie again. It's the kind of film that a few years will go by and then I'll revisit it, and it definitely holds up. I mean, it's got the grittiness to it, and it's got the moralistic implications. It's the good guy versus the bad guy, and of course it's got the Western elements of High Noon. So and then again, you've got Sean Connery in there, and interesting enough too, Frances Sternhagen, she's 93 years old, Ross. She's still
she's still with us.
So
and unlike a lot of other movies of this sort, and I guess I was trying to get to that point at the beginning, even though I talked for so long, I meandered so much, I didn't really say, I don't think, but as I'm doing again. But there was a clear definition of who was the good guy and the bad guy. Like a lot of times with this kind of movie, it's not always so clear anymore. You usually have like an anti-hero or I mean, the setting was very definitely gritty,
Right.
in a contemporary sense. It's what you kind of expect from a movie post Alien, post Blade Runner, a movie of the sort. But I mean, it was Sean Connery was definitely the guy who wants to do the right thing,
Right.
and he didn't even really have. They didn't really even give him any real flaw there, did they? I mean, he didn't beat his wife. He didn't drink. He didn't have any real demons other than the fact that he never really rose above these mundane jobs. Yeah.
Yeah, it was almost implied that he was just kind of a pain in the neck to work with and caused trouble and
yeah, because he'd shoot off his mouth. He'd open his mouth,
right. So that's it was more implied, but nothing else beyond that, and wanting to do something better, and then questioning his convictions at the end of the day after he was going through all this because of what he was in. I thought it was interesting too. It was funny when she said you're in trouble, and she said it's when you give, like 2-word answers, and then he responds to her like with a 2-word response, like right. I'm not, I'm fine, no problem. You know what I mean? It was kind of funny.
All right.
And then, of course, Ross, in regards to music.
I forgot all about the music. And how could
I for that?
Since it's Jerry Goldsmith. There you go.
There he is.
And he had that, he did it not long after Alien. I mean, Alien was 79 and this is 81. But he had that kind of gloss on there of the electronics, which kind of took me back a little bit to Logan's Run. He did the music for that too, which had a lot more electronics. But Goldsmith was not afraid to incorporate electronics. Like whereas a lot of like John Williams and a lot of the people that followed him kind of went back to the 19th century orchestra sound. Goldsmith was not afraid to doodle around a little bit with electronic music as he did in this movie, but it had a lot of that alien kind of atmosphere and dread to it. The music, even after he triumphs, it's kind of like a moody kind of score. What I found, and I don't really have to go too much into Jerry Goldsmith, I don't think, because he's done so many movies that we all know and love, and so many classic science fiction and adventure films and westerns, and he did Patton also, and just so many different kinds of movies. It won his only Oscar for The Omen, which I'll never get over.
Crazy. That's crazy.
Not
to say it wasn't deserved, but it blows my mind that.
Yeah, I know. Well, I mean, for all the classic scores that he wrote and all the times he was nominated, but that's what happens when you come up opposite John Williams and. Yeah. I mean, even John Williams. I mean, sometimes what was it? Was it Midnight Express that beat Superman?
I think so.
Giorgio Moroder. It's like sometimes you just have to scratch your head at like what's the Academy think? Well, most of the time that's what you think. Isn't it funny we use the Academy Awards to support the things that we like? It's like, well, it was Academy Award winner, but when they pick something we don't like, we'll say, oh, the Academy doesn't know what it's doing. Yeah. So Jerry Goldsmith did the music, but what happened was they had a couple of things that they wanted changed after they completed the film, and Goldsmith wasn't available. So they brought in Morton Stevens, who had actually studied with Goldsmith and worked with him on Man from U.N.C.L.E. and then later on his score for the miniseries Masada. Mm-hmm. And he went and he wrote a cue for the fight scene outside of the station. Yeah, where he fights the new deputy, the guy who takes Sicking's place. Yeah, so that was Morton Stevens' music there. Stevens.
Before you go on, Morton Stevens, I know the name, and we've talked about him, and I am blanking out. Where do I?
His best known music is the theme to Hawaii 5-0.
Thank you. I knew
But
that.
he did a lot of TV. I mean, he did Gilligan's Island, as they all did back then. John
Yeah.
Williams did too, and Gerald Fried.
I
But
love the Hawaii Five-O theme. In fact, when we did television themes on this show, you remember that night.
where we got shut down every 5 minutes.
That was
We
such
should
a
do
fun
that
night
again.
though, playing all those themes. I mean, we really covered a lot of ground on that. That was a lot of fun. But
Yeah, we really rode the wave of the algorithm that night.
yeah, that was I think
We were like Thelma and Louise. But yeah, so he did that. He was the music director basically for the Rat Pack early on too. I mean, he was always arranging and conducting for Sammy Davis Jr. and for Jerry Lewis and that whole crew, Sinatra's crew. But that's Morton Stevens. And then for the scene in the bar, or whatever they called it, the leisure club or what have you. Yeah, all that electronic stuff was done by a composer named Michael Boddicker. Michael Boddicker was a session musician for all like really big artists in the 70s and 80s. I mean, he worked with Barbra Streisand. He worked with Randy Newman. Later, Olivia Newton-John, Lionel Richie, Michael Jackson. He was a session musician on all Michael Jackson's biggest albums. Thriller. But he of his original scores, probably the one everybody would recognize because we're science fiction people, is Buckaroo Banzai.
Okay.
Otherwise, he worked on other people's scores. Sometimes his music got absorbed into other movies. He arranged and he produced other people's scores. He worked on Battlestar Galactica. We know Stu Phillips was the composer, but
right.
he also worked on that. But he's largely an electronic music composer, and what happened here is he went and wrote the music for those scenes. Goldsmith had originally put something in there, but they wound up putting this Boddicker's music in its place. And I forgot to mention, he also won a Grammy for his song that was used in Flashdance, "Imagination."
Mm.
But he worked with Quincy Jones, Barry Manilow, Kenny Rogers, Whitney Houston. He was just one of these guys where everybody knew him and he worked with everybody. But Jerry Goldsmith is the guy who gets the credit, and he was the guy who wrote most of the music in the movie. So,
yeah, I mean, his music is amazing. I mean, it's in a lot of ways. It's. I mean, don't get me wrong. I love John Williams and everything, but Jerry Goldsmith definitely is up there with him.
Yeah. I mean, I always look, even with the terrible movies. I remember I don't know if I mentioned it on this show, probably, but we went to see a movie called Inchon with Laurence Olivier as MacArthur, and it was terrible. But, I said, sure. And I knew it was going to be terrible. But I went and because Goldsmith did the music. There's so often that I would go see the movies back then because I'd be like the only guy. Herb say, my stepfather would say, "Hey, you want to go see Inchon?" "Oh, sure. Jerry Goldsmith did the music." Or John Barry did the music. Or, I would go to the movie to hear the music. It would be another incentive. Or, oh, Nightwing. Oh, what? Henry Mancini did the music. Let's go see it. See what he did with it. So there we go. I padded that enough, I think.
No, thanks.
Is there anybody still out there?
No, there's a lot of people out there. Hey, I have a couple comments I wanted to put up too, that just going through things. Brennan said, one of the few R-rated science fiction films I got to see in the theater then, not as good as Alien, but better than Saturn III. I quite enjoyed it, and I just love that era of sci-fi. Saturn III, that's another movie. I think it kind of falls into this realm. In fact, friend of the show, Suzanne Peterson, she was Farrah Fawcett Majors at the time, or Farrah Fawcett, her stand-in, and she got to work with her, and she had nothing but nice things to say about working with her. But that was another movie that I enjoyed that film. It wasn't. It could have been better. It wasn't. I think this movie was better.
It's not Harvey Keitel's finest hour.
No, it
or
wasn't.
anyone's. But, but but yeah, I mean, Farrah, come on. But
Yeah.
yeah, I think that Brennan should be writing the tags for the Blu-ray. You know, that would be, or he could have the critical blurb. It's like not as good as Alien, but better than Saturn 3. Brennan Morrison.
Sean also commented. He said this movie has all the classic story elements, meaning Outland. More importantly, and concentrated on people, not tech or technobabble. No.
Yeah, no, that's true. In fact, the only like jargon, you know, the made up stuff is the name of whatever the amphetamine was.
Mm.
But they didn't really go that much into it. You know, they didn't get distracted and
Yeah.
any of that stuff.
Jeff Rubel commented, Goldsmith's son Joel did 14 years of Stargate scores. Apple doesn't fall far from the tree, thankfully.
Yeah. He also did Hercules with Lou Ferrigno.
Oh, there you go.
Oh no, wait, no, that's I'm sorry, that's Pino Donaggio. I forget what Joel Goldsmith did. He did one of those though.
Gotcha.
Yeah, maybe he did. I don't know.
Interesting. Oh, and Brendan said that that was a great show. I'm glad I watched it live. And he was talking about the one where we did the TV themes.
Yeah, it was fun in its way. Yeah,
I think there were originally 4 or 5. Got lost, unfortunately. Yeah.
Mm.
Hey, and I see Debbie Lockwood is out there, or Bill Nutt. He's saying the rumor is that. Thanks for joining us. We appreciate it. Hope you're doing well, Bill, and hope Debbie's doing well too. Saying the rumor is that Frances Sternhagen's role was written to be played by a man, and when she was cast, they didn't change a word. Interesting. I did not know that. Thanks for sharing that tidbit.
Yeah.
And David saying he didn't leave us. He's still here. Thanks for hanging in there, David.
Yeah, I like the way her role was written.
Yeah, it really, really worked well.
I would have hoped that he would have written it for her, knowing it was going to be her. But yeah, you know what I mean? Like he wouldn't have changed anything. It does change the dynamic that she is a woman, because there's always that, you know, because we have such a rapport together that you kind of like want some kind of, there's a bond between them. But
right.
Yeah, I mean, no play on words, because it's kind of bond. But he does have the wife but she's gone back to Earth with the kid, and you know, you don't know if they're going to reunite or what's going on.
Right.
But
yeah, it is kind of funny when she says, "You want to go get drunk?"
yeah. She's more like, you know, the hard bitten side.
Yeah.
You know, like I said, she's a little bit like a Dr. McCoy character. It's something about, well, what did she say about her doctor, her character? She said that, like, you know, outpost doctors are like ship doctors, that they're like one what is it? A one step short of a malpractice suit is what it was. That's what it was.
Lou commented, he said John Williams will be at Tanglewood this August.
Yeah.
And Sue said he said Tanglewood is his favorite place to play. Yale, Massachusetts.
Yeah. He's like Savoir Faire. He's everywhere.
Yeah. And he's what, 92, isn't he?
91 right now.
91. He's him and William Shatner are the same age.
Yeah.
William Shatner will be 92 this month. Christian said, still here, Ross. I did pick that Blade Runner CD soundtrack today. I know you did talk about the Vangelis, one of that old thing I still have on vinyl.
Yeah. I had it on vinyl. That was the one that Vangelis didn't authorize or whatever. Yeah. But the official soundtrack he didn't authorize. And then he came out with one later. Yeah.
Oh. Their banner is a lot like Elliot Gould and Karen Black from Capricorn 1. Yeah, that's a little bit more grittier, but yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
Good analogy. Good analogy, Brennan. That's true. So, well, as we start to wind down, I'm going to go to the shout outs portion. So if you have any last minute comments that you want to comment about the movie, folks, please do so. And then Ross and I will rebuttal. So anyway, with that said,
I'm not rebutting anything.
You're not rebutting anything. Okay. Sticking to it. Want to give Mike and Mary Beth from Sci-Fi Distilled a shout out. They are on Wednesday nights at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and they are actually doing Robot Month this month for March. and they will be discussing the 1973 film Westworld. Excellent movie. Ross and I talked about this movie way back, and yeah, great cast, and talking about James Brolin and
Richard Benjamin's mustache.
Yeah, Richard and Yul Brynner. So yeah,
Yul Brynner. Yeah,
Yul Brynner. Yeah, good, excellent movie. So yeah, definitely check them out. They are on Wednesday night, and again, they are doing Robot Month for the month of March, and that's at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Next, I want to give a shout out to Country Gay Players. As we know, with everything with COVID, really put things behind schedule with a lot of theaters around the world. But I want to say that Country Gate is back for their full season, and Bill is actually friend Bill is out there, so you can, if you are in the Belvedere, New Jersey area and you want to check them out, go to the website and you can visit at www.countrygate.org, or you could go to Bill's website, which is www.billscorrado.com, and they are going to be headlining the season with the play Sylvia, which is by A.R. Gurney. The dates for this are April 22nd and 23rd. It's a Saturday and Sunday. Saturday night at 8 p.m. Sunday matinee is at 2. And then the following weekend, it's the 29th and the 30th. And again, 8 p.m. on the Saturday and 2 p.m. on the Sunday. So definitely check them out. And it's really very nice to have the theater back in operation. It's crazy because we are literally coming up on 3 years when everything shut down, and it was on I believe it was the 18th of March. It was right after whatchamacallit, it's St. Paddy's Day. So next, want to give a shout out to Captain Phil's Planet, WSB 90.1 FM, Stony Brook, New York. The captain's schedule, he is on alternating Thursdays from 3 to 5 p.m. And he is also on Friday nights from 9 to 11:30 p.m. So you can check out the captain there. And also want to give the ladies a shout out from Studio One Thrift. They have a new website, which you can visit. It's www.studioonethrift.net. This is run by Snow and Martha, and they've been doing this. It's coming up. They're going to be coming up on their year anniversary too. So they actually showcase their lineup for all seasons, all year long, with quality, stylish, affordable clothing for both men and women. And you can also receive styling tips as well. So definitely check out their website. They also have a fashion show that is going to be coming up, and this is going to be on April 15th. And you can go to the website. It's going to be 522 Main Street up in Stroudsburg, Pennsylvania. So it's not too far up the road. So if you are in that area, definitely check them out. And there's a $5 cover. It starts at 7 p.m. They're going to have entertainment there as well. Again, visit their website. And Ross, if you can let folks know what you've got going on for this weekend.
All right, these are the two shows I have on WWFM, the Classical Network. Picture Perfect's the movie music show, and that airs Saturday nights at 6. And I believe, isn't it the Academy Awards this weekend?
It is. It is.
Yeah,
Ross.
yeah. I used to do like a big blowout where I do like 3 hours of. I preview all the nominees, and I'd have all the classic scores that won Oscars over the years. But you know, I just don't do it anymore. Unfortunately, I've got an hour to deal with here. So what I did is this year I just went with Bette Davis is what I did. I took her because she was a 2-time Academy Award winner and the first actor to be nominated 10 times. And 5 of those nominations were consecutive. So I've got all music from her films, since she's one of the icons of Hollywood's golden age. So I'll have music from Now Voyager by Max Steiner, from Mr. Skeffington by Franz Waxman, All About Eve by Alfred Newman, and The Private Lives of Elizabeth in Essex, in which he plays Elizabeth I opposite Errol Flynn. And that's music by Eric Wolfgang Korngold. So it's music for the films of Bette Davis tomorrow night on Picture Perfect at 6 o'clock. On the Classical Network. You can listen at wwfm.org. If you can't listen at the time indicated, it'll be posted as a webcast next week. The Lost Chord is unusual and neglected classical music. And we changed the clocks on Saturday night. We lose an hour.
Yeah.
So even though we lose an hour's sleep, it's never too late to be early. So what I'm doing is I'm playing 20th and 21st century composers' music that was influenced by early music of the Renaissance. I know it's convoluted, but I've got William Craft's Vintage Renaissance, which was actually written for the Boston Pops and John Williams, by the way.
There you
go. Also, George Frederick Mackay's Suite on 16th century hymn tunes, and Lucas Foss's Renaissance Concerto. So that's it's never too late to be early on the Lost Chord this week. 10 o'clock on Sunday night. We'll be back to what is it? What do you call it? It's not standard time. Daylight time.
Daylight.
Eastern Daylight Time at wwfm.org. And I'll write more about these things on my Facebook page. I'll write more about Picture Perfect tomorrow morning and the Lost Chord on Sunday morning at Classic Ross Amico. Thanks, Roy.
Awesome. Thanks, Ross. And one more thing. Well, actually, two more things. One thing, folks, and I'm just going to throw this out here because I have to. If you have not had the opportunity to see Star Trek Picard, it is running on the Paramount Network right now. They are doing 10 episodes for season 3, and they are up to the 4th episode. It was just they pretty much start broadcasting at midnight Pacific Standard Time, so it will start showing at 3 a.m. if you're diehard, and on a Thursday morning. They just started that, and it was episode number 4, No Win Scenario, and they knocked it out of the park. They really, really did. I mean, if you're a Star Trek: The Next Generation fan, this season is really going to town, and it's really hitting the marks on many levels. And I just wanted to give it a plug because it's very enjoyable. So I think if you haven't seen it, and if you've been kind of toying with it, definitely check it out. I am not going to give any spoilers away here, but it definitely has the right feel, the camaraderie, and just hitting a lot of nostalgia, let's say. I think that's the best way to put it. So if you watch the show, which that's the other thing, the show is like literally it was made like 36. Production started on that like 36 years ago. I'm with you, Dennis, on that. And when I think of 36 years ago in terms of that, it's like, oh, that's not that long ago. But yet, if I was thinking about 36 years ago, years ago, I'd be like, oh my God, it's a lifetime. But it's a generation plus 10, really. So, but anyway, with all that said, if you haven't seen it, definitely check it out. It's definitely hitting a lot of positive chords. One more thing, as Columbo would say, and then I'm going to come back. Just one more thing, folks. Dave Rash, and Dave was out there. I don't know if he's still out there, but I'm going to just share this. This is if you can see it, feasibility study, and this is his second book that he's actually done, and it's pretty amazing. And if you go to
Outer Limits,
it's from the Outer Limits, and just to write, this is a quote from his page. He was proud to announce that the second single episode of Outer Limits publication is now available. And its Villa di Stefano Productions is proud to present Joseph Stefano's original, a feasibility study, first draft script dated March 29th, 1963. 100-page, 8x5, 11 paperback, also includes a picture gallery, act one of a second draft of the episode dated May 28th, 1963, and an academic assessment by Dr. Tony Williams, a professor in the English department at the Southern Illinois University. This book is currently available on eBay. So I just wanted to give Dave a shout out. Dave has really been like the keeper of the gate with Outer Limits material, and he highly respects, the material, the show, and it's pretty impressive. So anyway, I've put the link into the box. I'm sharing that. If you're an Outer Limits fan, definitely check it out. Definitely visit his page, and he's actually going to be at Trek Long Island in May 21st and 22nd, and I'm very happy to say that I will be interviewing him along with Dominic Stefano. So very much looking forward to that. And again, Dave is a great guy. So, and he was kind enough to, send this to me too. So definitely check it out. And I just wanted to give Dave a shout out, and much well deserved. And lastly, I just want to say that there will be a show this coming Sunday, which is Academy Award night. Whoops, that's not the show that we're doing. We are, we'll be talking about that too. Episode 186, which is going to be a Calgary 1999 event. And I'm going to have on Warren Friedrich, who is actually organizing the event. Been helping him with that. Also going to have Bob Wood, and also author Bob Wood, who has been writing different books. In fact, both him and David Hirsch just did one of the latest was Maybe There, The Lost Stories from Space 1999. I'm sure you're aware of that. And then the book that came out. And David Hirsch, we know from Starlog magazine, of course, columnist for Jerry Anderson Space Reports. And then also they will be joining us this coming Sunday. So just definitely want to give a shout out to them being on the show. Looking forward to talking to them about the Calgary event. And it's getting closer. So for information on that, you can go to the Facebook page, Destination Moonbase Alpha. So that will be this Sunday, and that will be at 7 p.m., even though I've got Friday up there. There we go. The magic of slides. And we hope you will join us for that. And then lastly, I wanted to say the show is going to be celebrating its 4th year premiere, and that is going to be on Friday, April 7th at 7:30 p.m. And that'll be Eastern Daylight Time. So that will be concluding the special 3-year anniversary episode celebration as we go into the 4th year of Roy's Tie-Dye Sci-Fi Corner. So the show originally premiered back on April 3rd of 2020, right after the pandemic started. So very excited about that. And it's going to be kind of cool to celebrate that. So just wanted to alert everybody. And also Roy's Tie-Dye Sci-Fi Corner shirts will be available in near future. I'll be posting that online as well too. And we'll be talking about that in the coming week or so. So with that said, those are our service announcements for today. And hey, I see Rye's out there. Hey, Rye.
Hey, Rye.
Thanks for joining. Good to see you out there, buddy. My son, Ryan. And Leslie is out there. Hey, Leslie. She said, oh, sorry I'm late. Ferret emergency. Oops. Hope everything's okay. But thanks, Leslie. We appreciate the compliment. So, Ross, any last words?
No, it's 9:30.
Okay. I think we covered a lot tonight.
But otherwise, we could work in an Oscar rant, but I won't.
Speaking of the Oscars, I just want to throw that out there. Everything, everywhere, all at once. I hope Michelle Yeoh gets it. I am rooting for her. I really hope she gets the Academy Award for Best Actress. She's definitely got my vote, and have not seen the entire movie throughout. Like I got tired, so that's it was late. It's a bad habit of myself, and a lot of times with Shari and I, we start watching movies. That's why it's better if you're in a movie theater, because you see the movie. Started watching this movie, enjoyed it, but got 3/4 of the way down, and then was going to go back the next night, and then of course it's just been kind of crazy. So anyway, like I said, I hope she gets it. She's got my vote. Not the Academy's going to listen, but there you go. But anyway, we'll try to make sure that the Sunday show is done before doesn't run too over with the Academy Award.
I'm fighting not to say anything about the Academy Awards because I got a mouthful.
Yeah, and Sean's actually saying Ross should do the Oscar rant. No.
Well, if we had more time, if we did a special show tomorrow night, I could have a 2-hour Oscar rant.
Oh, there you go. Anyway, folks, thanks for joining us tonight. We hope that you have a wonderful Saturday and enjoy your Sunday as well. Again, I'll be back on Sunday night. As we always like to say, live long and prosper. And we'll see you next time.
Have a good weekend.
Have a good weekend.